Okay, I'll be quiet. I won't say anything.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 4:34. We do expect John to come. Hopefully John will be here. So did everyone get a chance to read the minutes? Okay, were there any, well, how about a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second. Were there any edits or corrections on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. No, oh, there's John, excellent. Just in time for public appearances. No appearances, it seems. And we'll move on to unfinished business. So Doug did put in this public hearing, saying, there will be no action on this request at this point, and that hasn't changed.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can just give an update. Obviously, this was the main reason that we postponed or canceled the November meeting, hoping that we would have something by December. There is that was a consultant that was.
I have a mother and son out here. They're wondering if they're supposed to come in. They have court tonight.
This is Landmarks Commission.
They'll actually go head them over to the police department with them.
Oh, they're in the police department today. I'm sorry. They said that they were in the conference room.
You know what, if they're in court, then they should be over at the library.
They, Leah says that the court's in here tonight.
Oh, well,
No.
we have a landmarks meeting and then a transit meeting right after that in here.
Okay, so we will have to double check the schedule. Sorry about that, guys.
Yes, sorry about that.
Court's usually
I've walked in on court.
Yeah.
walked in on court before too.
Yes, okay,
So
sorry.
no worries. So we obviously had an opinion from CMR that was not structural, and they were not structural engineers, and that was the main intention of the second opinion, was to get that component. And so there was another consultant that was contacted. He was not able to go on the record, was not willing to sort of give that formal opinion. He did come out, take a look at it, but was not, just in speaking with his supervisors, did not proceed with that. So I asked for another recommendation, and that led me to the contractor that we're looking to work with now. So he has been out on the site, has at least taken a look, and has sort of given me a scope of what it would entail. He is planning to do a site visit to write the letter, the opinion letter that we're looking for, to provide potentially some drawings, but also to be present at a meeting, to answer any questions at a future meeting as well. So that is kind of where we're looking to go at the moment. We're sort of finalizing details of the contract, hoping to have the site visit completed before the end of the year, before things freeze and we get covered in snow. And so, I'm targeting that, I believe it's January 12th meeting, that can still proceed. So again, just with noticing deadlines, I'll be putting that in for the class 1 for the notice, and hoping that will give kind of the overview and the detail that the commission is looking for to make that informed decision. So there will be a fee with that, but of course, with that, we are able to define the scope a little bit better, and have those elements that we're looking for. So just working to refine those at the moment, and hoping that this will be the answer that we're looking for.
There's fencing up around it right now.
There is, yes.
Are you able to share?
It's going to be Kurt Strauss, who works with Structural Integrity out of Middleton.
That's the guy who did you worked with
He was with,
Charlie.
yes, that's
Oh,
correct.
okay.
So he has a familiarity with it already, and is also, during the site visit, going to be doing a little bit of, because of some of the backfill that's gone in since Patrick Egan's opinion, he's going to be doing a little bit of clearing around it as well, sort of shovel and light excavation around it to get down to the foundations to really give that full. We did sort of internally discuss, given he did disclose that, he was part of the 2016, but we didn't think that was necessarily a conflict, but rather that, there's at least some familiarity there. So still decided that he's available, he's interested, and seems to have the skill set that we're looking for. So I'm going to finalize those details in the coming days and get him out on site while it's still warm.
Relatively.
Yes.
Depending on the day.
Exactly.
Could be 30, could be 60. All right. Any questions or?
So I'm wondering, so we're trying to figure out two things. One, is it structurally sound enough that we can repair it? Or too? Is that basically it? If it's repairable, that's the question we're asking.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact language of the motion in front of me, but it was mainly, please correct me if I'm misstating this here, but I believe it was the structural integrity was one component of the motion. So a professional structural engineer's opinion on that component. But then the second was sort of I believe in terms of sort of feasibility of a possible restoration or replacement. So as part of that, I'm looking to try and get some ballpark cost estimates to understand. I think the old saying goes, anything can be done for a price. So just what sort of ballpark pricing for repair or the work based on structural opinion versus maybe a full replacement. So I think they're the two elements that we're looking for, and whenever I'm pitching this work, I do use the exact language from that motion to kind of help shape that.
Were we still looking at the cause of the structural problems? Like, was it from the work of the park? Was it from aging? I thought that was one thing that we wanted to get determined too.
I think it was mainly a concern about with the park opening again, just the potential, the structural integrity of it itself. I'm not sure that it was necessarily that would be able to be defined. I think with a little bit of the excavation, they'll be able to see the materials of the foundation and just see, I believe there's some limestone there, which I think the water has been part of the problem. So maybe some of the materials will suggest a cause of deterioration, but I'm not sure that would necessarily be able to be defined as well.
Okay, because that's what time we were looking at to see if it was going to be working with the people that did the construction to have them help pay for some of the replacement of that. That was one of the first conversations I was a part of.
I think that was mentioned, but it would be just difficult to ascertain whether that was the reason or not. So I don't think that's something to
Okay.
Any other thoughts or comments?
So as I understand it, there's like $65,000 in the city budget. Is this project currently?
I believe so. And so that was certainly some of the carryover from as I understand it, carryover from the roof project, which we still haven't got final costs of that, sort of the mobilization that they had. They did do some initial work on that, so there'll be a little bit taken out of that. But I believe, again, based upon the estimates that we have from Patrick Keegan, that number was put in the 2022 budget to cover potential replacements, but recognizing, whatever route we go down, that will be some consultation period and things that timing may slide. And I think that's a part of it. If there's a redesign, there'll be a process to that as well. So I believe it is 65,000 in the
It
budget.
was
Yeah.
60
Mhm.
to 65. I haven't looked at that
I
number.
remember
recently.
65.
You remember
10
65,
was-
okay.
10,000 was from Comfort. I think you two.
Yeah.
So if we are to find that it's not structurally sound, can't be repaired, what do we do next? Can we look at other alternatives?
I think that would be considered. So the sort of origins of this was the certificate of appropriateness for demolition as part of this. So because it is a local landmark, that would be the process through which it would need to be reviewed. And I think that was where we came to this, was the commission's concern as to whether it needed to be replaced or removed for that. So I think the structural, it's my understanding this opinion will help inform that decision process as to whether to possibly proceed with the demolition permit or to withdraw or pull back from that if it is something that could possibly be saved.
Okay. Well, one thing might be worth asking if it can be safely deconstructed so that we can keep those columns that are have access to those in case we do want to recreate what was there, it'd be nice to have those pieces for whatever replication effort we might want to mount.
And I think that that was actually something that through the roof scanning process, we have pretty good details on the columns, but certainly.
On the columns, do?
I believe so. I think it's sort of
Oh.
fed into the roof.
Oh,
just how-
okay.
How that was laid out.
I
but
thought it was just the roof, but maybe it was columns too.
If I remember from the previous discussions, I think it wouldn't have been much to get the full scan versus what we already have for the roof.
Okay.
Yes, so.
And so demolition, I hope that would not include the foundation, the well structure itself. Since I think that should probably still be structural. But that's something he might have an opinion on as well.
And it sounds like his goal is to take a look at that, so.
Yes, yeah, he'll definitely, he wants to, a lot of the discussion was kind of the contact point between the columns and the foundation. So I think that is a big reason for that site excavation and, all the way.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
sure.
All right, excellent. Anything else on that? Okay, so we'll kind of pass over item B, consider that rolled into that conversation. Moving on to new business, discussion of the strategy for the certified local government grant funding, National Register nominations. And so Doug included that, those stipulations there on the last page of our packet. Yes. Tell us about that.
Sure. So as part of this, obviously, the original grant funding that was awarded, the deadline for that passed end of September 2021. We were granted a one-year extension because of COVID, the difficulties that we had in spending down some of that funding. But part of the agreement, part of the amended memorandum includes regular check-ins pretty much on a monthly basis throughout the rest of the project. And one of the sort of hard deadlines that we had here was for they called it the stipulated strategy. And it's basically, the plan for spending the money and sort of the priorities. So in this, a lot of it was just pulled from the discussion that I had with the Historical Society, giving ideas of possible funding opportunities, obviously National Register items being sort of the focus and the origin of the grant. But they definitely seem to open up opportunities for other elements as well that still link to historic preservation. So my plan was to bring this to the commission tonight to get some buy-in, in terms of what priorities would be. I think we have spoken about this in mid to late summer in general, but just beginning to put sort of numbers and priority rankings to this, to have a little bit more of a discussion. The numbers in terms of what is remaining, what is being spent are all listed, as well as some estimates, in terms of what's available. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or run through this, whatever the commission would prefer, but we welcome discussion. I'm planning to send this through on Friday. That was the agreed upon. We adjusted the deadline just so that we could have this meeting and discuss this, and I'll share it with them. I wouldn't say it's necessarily binding, but again, it's kind of our work plan and roadmap moving forward for the next 9 to 10 months.
So in terms of National Register plaques, were you thinking of one for each of the 3 nominations?
I thought that was certainly an opportunity, yes.
So that would be, but I'm wondering if $1,500 is overly generous. I'm not sure they cost that much.
Okay. It was my understanding that it could include, the sort of a full installation as well, depending upon, on building, in ground, something like that, which, rather than necessarily just the plaque, which I know, at least for the Monona Mound, I think was around 900 or something like that. But I know that, the mounting and the stone and all those things add to that as well. So
Oh, you're thinking of A historical
bronze.
plaque,
Right,
Yes,
a National Register plaque is different than a state historical marker.
yes, just thinking generally in terms of the mounting and the location of those types of things.
Yeah, well, a plaque can just be bolted right to the building.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's not a lot of mounting costs for some of those.
I don't think putting a plaque on a building doesn't do the public any good because they have to go right up to the building to see if it's a house, right? So
Yeah,
are you saying we just should clarify?
we could put it on a concrete pedestal. I've seen where in Madison, they incised them right into the terrace.
yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, they're usually mounted on the building. But yeah, I understand your public benefit point. So yeah, if you're talking about different kinds of installation techniques besides mounting on a building, you'd end up quite a bit there.
That was my thinking, certainly for the private property, for the 2 homes. I thought that something a little closer to the street, obviously with owner consent and then approval, something a little more visible could be nice. With the restore, I'd imagine maybe on the building would make sense for the
Yeah.
whole building. It is more accessible, but certainly for the private properties, I think for public benefit, I think it may be closer to the street or, in a more visible spot.
Okay.
I think both the Monona Motors and Southtown are on metal poles. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe if we wanted to be consistent with that.
A lot of
Those
them
are different than the National Register.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they are. Okay.
I mean, you could get a state historical marker, but then that's going to be more than 1,500. The marker in front of Monona Motors is more like 25 to 3,000.
Yeah, and I did look into, there's a couple of Wisconsin-based firms that are on the National Register list of approved contractors that could do this. So that was 1,500 was kind of the placeholder that I was given by the state in terms of what they estimated with some installation. But certainly, if when we have approval from the owners, I could certainly get final cost estimates. But it may be a little higher for some, a little low for others. But I think the traditional, I think it is a smaller plaque, and it's not quite as
Yeah.
extensive. But I think with the mounting, if there's some sort of boulder or recess involved, then I think the price could have it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Does the owner of the property have any say in how it's presented?
Yes, I would be looking for that consent and approval. I would hope if they gone through the process, they would appreciate or would be willing to do something like this. And I think obviously being National Register, it will be public information and things like that. So I feel there'd be some benefit to that. Certainly, I feel it could be a nice way to bring things together, but certainly I haven't had those discussions yet with those property owners. But I wouldn't imagine we'd want to do it without that.
No. I don't know how many people would want a Monona Motors, sign in there.
Yeah.
And moving on, can we move on to the next item? Yeah.
Yeah, I can give an update to that. So that was something that was listed as possibly eligible with the State Historical Society. Again, a little bit of a departure from the original grant application, but they did see it as possibly beneficial. So as I understand it, at this point, there is a quote that is being received for just a general archaeological survey that would be around that $1,500 mark. But that would be making use of possibly the LiDAR information or resources that already exist. And then that would be the reason for the cost savings. Were there to be additional resources needed, the cost could increase quite significantly. And so that is, I believe, there's coordination with the Ho-Chunk at the moment in terms of what resources they have that are available to use. And so again, that starts at 1,500, but could increase depending upon what is available.
Are we're talking about San Damiano.
Yes.
That's already being taken care of by the city.
And so I spoke with the city administrator in terms of if this was something that would be of interest, if, you know, it would be possible. He said, you know, we could list it and sort of gave me that background to it as well. The thing that, you know, I think was suggested that could be possibly more of more interest to this group would be, as we talk about educational programming, that there could be, you know, additional benefits to that over and above. Because as you say, this is something that is already underway. And so, you know, something over and above along the lines of, you know, whether it's informational signage or, you know, website information, things like that, that could help, you know, with additional resources.
So I want to speak to that a little bit because we have the steering committee
Yes.
going for that. I think that we should hold off on anything for San Damiano until we get a comprehensive plan.
So you're saying you don't think it should be included as a talking point in a potential use of the grant money? This isn't actually use of the grant money, it's just a potential use of grant money. Potential. project
I
list.
mean, I can bring that up with the steering committee that we have grant money available for things and see what they say to that, but I think that should stay with the steering committee for now.
I mean, why would they not want to take advantage of these funds, considering?
I
that
don't
they're
think that they
fundraising?
wouldn't want the funds. I'm just saying that that should be brought to them, not to us.
Well, if we put it in here as a talking point, I think that gives us a platform to discuss it with them. Saying, hey, we could do this if you're up for it, if you support it.
Yeah,
I think that would be fine to give them ideas. I just don't think that it's gonna be a long drawn out process.
Mhm.
So I think just giving them ideas is fine, but
I think a lot of people in the community, just because an archaeological survey has never been done there, people are anxious and excited to see that get underway. It does seem like it might make sense to get that started, you know.
that's
sooner.
already in the works.
Okay, yeah, I know, I've been hearing for months that a bid has been out, but I just haven't heard any where that's gone, and it's seems pretty awesome that we could possibly use these funds to pay for that.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think of any other subsequent efforts kind of a leg up.
Those meetings are open, by the way, if anybody wanted to join.
They're open. Now, have they met? the steering
We've
committee?
met, yeah, we're going on our third time.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
I think you meet at the library in the back conference room, is that right?
Yeah.
Some of that
What's
back
the
meeting.
schedule for that?
Oh, I've been kind of, I haven't been able to find those meetings.
The next one I think is next week.
Okay.
There's not really a set schedule.
Uh.
We schedule them at each meeting when we can all meet. Yeah, this has an attachment I can't open, so I'm not sure, but I want to say there's one next week.
When you find out, would you mind emailing either Doug or the commission with that date and time?
Yeah, you can probably just let Brian.
Yeah, I
I
can.
think that'd be,
Mhm.
I think that'd be great, you know, it seems like those two are, we should be working somewhat, or at least in the know of what that committee is doing on.
I'm not sure I agree, actually.
Okay.
I think that the role of the landmarks commission is not, I mean, so far has not been. When San Damiano came to us, because it is a historic property, but unless they are suggesting something with the house, which we've all agreed is the only thing that is landmark, then I don't know that we have a role there.
Yeah, I don't
I
know
think
that
this
we
money
necessarily
is
have a
different with the
role.
archaeological survey potentially because it's an additional service with this grant money, but with the house itself is landmark, the park, yeah, it's not.
Right, I agree, I don't know that we have a role, but it seems like it would be nice for us to be abreast of those dates and those meetings in case people want to be engaged in that and just aware of what's happening.
It's probably, the meeting is probably posted on the city website. I know of the meeting that should be.
Are they recorded?
Yeah, Brian.
Okay.
takes notes.
think just kind of introducing some of the others, the historical marker at Oneida Park had also been mentioned, so I put that as a potential item here. And then briefly touched on this, but the public education programming, so you know, walking tour materials, international style homes, educational materials that had been discussed previously. And one item that was put in the MOA was actually, you know, purchasing resources for the you know, public library, if nothing else. So I think some of these were a little more general suggestions of funding, but all, you know, deemed eligible. I would certainly, as part of this, you know, get that blessing before proceeding with anything specific. But you know, I think that there's quite a wide array here, as well as, of course, you know, National Register properties, if we believe there to be, you know, support for those. UWM, UW Milwaukee is still, you know, basically available with a pretty quick turnaround. They could work on a property. I know Tim Hegland, his lead time maybe a little longer, but UW Milwaukee have basically said, you know, I think they were open to a number of the properties, and that $4,000 range was about the number they would charge for those.
So I don't see the historic neighborhood or historic district listed on here. Is that something that we would not want to work on at all, or couldn't be worked on as part of this grant?
I think in discussions with the state, I think the biggest thing was really the September 15th, 2022 deadline for submitting reimbursements. But I think that timeline was going to be pretty tight for that. You know, I think that the properties, were we to just outsource that, that's the sort of thing that can be a 6-8 week turnaround pretty easily. But I think that the district, that was sort of the reasoning for that. And it was, I think the other element was that it was in our initial proposal, it was sort of stipulated that it would not be a part of that, it would be the homes first and then the possible district. So I think those two things combined, that sort of was the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I understand that that wasn't part of the original grant. I just think now we're pushed back a year.
Yeah,
And so under this plan, and certainly the Landmarks Commission could work separately on that, but under this plan, we would not then start any information or processing on the historic district for another full year. Right. I mean, then we'd be back to applying for another grant. And I don't think we can get a district turned around by then, but to the extent there needs to be public meetings and neighborhood meetings, I should say, with information. If that
Some of the
process would need to
preliminary
be started,
work.
if some of the preliminary work could be started during this year, which
Ah.
might involve a cost, then could that be rolled into this, knowing that we would not possibly be submitting
that's really,
this as a potential landmark by the September deadline.
that's very good. thought.
I certainly think it's a possibility. I also know the point of contact I have with the state has made himself available to do those, as I would understand, free of charge. So
Okay.
that
Do what?
to assist with
Oh, the
the meeting
meetings.
or to
Oh,
join
oh.
or to do a presentation or, you know, anything like that. So I think that there's kind of two ways, you know, we could you know, take advantage of that and use that. But there could be the possibility, you know, if we were to try and engage a firm more formally, you know, there could be costs with that. But I think the state definitely, as we discussed that, they did, you know, mention the possibility, their resources, they're available to do that as well.
I had one possible suggestion. State historical marker. What's the park in between Bungalow and the International House there?
Frostwoods Beach.
What, the one that leads to the water?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beach.
I would think that it'd be great to have a marker there that talks about Frostwoods.
Yeah.
And on one side, and on the other side, something about Native American habitation. Because that used to be a village site. Up until it was Frostwoods.
Yeah.
That would have to go through the neighborhood association because that is part of Frostwoods. Any permit that has to be pulled has to go to the association first.
Could it require a permit?
For digging?
For putting in a post, to
I
put in
don't,
a
does
marker?
it, I don't know, for digging a hole.
A sign, and I'd have to look, if they're putting up a
I'm not
sign,
sure.
I'd have to look.
I mean, yeah, sure, get their approval. I mean, I don't see why it'd be.
There's 120 some homes.
Yeah, I'm just talking about,
They're
marker,
very,
talking about the history of.
It has to be approved, just the architectural.
Really?
Yeah, it has to be approved.
Well, I mean, if there's buy-in, I guess. it
Right,
doesn't Necessarily.
I don't know that the history has been researched there though either. History there is too accurately put on a sign about the Native American
Oh,
residents there, so.
not hard to do. There is quite a bit of Charles Brown and others. There's plenty to draw. I think that might have been why it was called Squaw Bay, because that was Native American habitation site until fairly recently.
I understood the beach was not a village.
The
That
beach was
my
actually
understanding.
part of Owen.
Say again?
It used to be Owen Beach for Ray Owen.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
that beach was, I think, but in our neighborhood history, that beach was a temporary. It was more of a seasonal
Oh,
encampment, not a
Okay.
village.
okay.
Not a permanent village in our neighborhood knowledge, but I don't know
Okay.
if that's,
Well, it might be good just
that's
to,
Bill Thomas telling us.
oh,
History.
okay, sure. It might be good to.
Yeah.
Look at all the information and consolidate.
Yeah, that'd be really. Doug, can you speak a little bit to this Oneida Park? Because I have not heard of this. I
So-
don't know if I missed the meeting that we talked about. or-
It was another point that came up when I met with two reps from the state as we were discussing an extension to this and kind of possible projects. And they mentioned that this had been on their radar. I wasn't fully aware from a staff level of this, but they had made mention of it. I think in the proximity around there, that there was possibility for a marker because of the previous the Native American village that was there. So
Is
that
there documentation of that or the
Do you
history
remember-
of that?
Do you remember we had a couple of years ago, somebody came and they said they've been trying to find the exact location of the village.
Right, I
for a
didn't
long
think
time.
they
I don't think
found
they
it.
have. They know there was a village, they have not found the site.
So I think as I understand it, it was sort of the vicinity or the, recognizing a approximate location rather than a specific point. That was kind of the a little bit more of the reasoning for that.
I didn't think it was in that area. I thought it was more south. Looking at the map, sorry.
That's right.
But that is pretty south, I guess. It's like Belle Isle.
One more suggestion.
I just didn't realize it was.
The studio where Harry Whitehorse worked. I understand, is that building coming down?
Where is that?
It's on Broadway,
Okay.
and
Near
I think
his-
there's a new housing project going on.
Oh,
in there.
okay. The studio was on that property.
Was where Whitehorse, I think it's Chief Auto Parts,
Yeah.
the sign.
Yeah.
That used to be his studio,
Oh, it is. Okay.
and there are
So that's-
pictures of
That's
him
his son.
as a
Ken,
young
who
man
owns that.
out there with some of the cars.
Okay. Cool. Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
So I think something about Harry Whitehorse, the artist, in Nona, worked in that studio. You have a cool marker.
Yeah.
And would that be a state?
It could be a state historical marker. Again, it's closer to 2,500. Maybe a little bit more if you want to photograph. So,
Also. Going back to the district, I was just wondering, because you said you had someone, there's someone with UW that said they could do that one free of charge,
Or the state historic?
or the,
Yes.
or the state, okay. is there anything that we could do that could use up some of these grant funds, besides that, beyond that, or and maybe, I don't know the process of determining a district. You wanna lay that out a little bit, and if you know what that is, or if someone here does?
You probably be the better candidate.
Well, it's similar to, you mean writing a nomination for a district?
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
well, not even just writing the nomination, but like the public engagement process,
There's just usually a public hearing or public meeting where all the owners are invited and they kind of lay out what it means to be listed on the national register.
and then the boundaries, they invite all those.
Yeah, and then they try to tell, this house is contributing, this house is not contributing.
I think they already laid that out in the survey.
Right, but then they make it part of the public meeting. So people get to ask questions about what that means. So contributing get to they're eligible for tax credits, not contributing or not eligible for tax credits. And then you have to make clear the difference between being listed on the national register versus being locally. People sometimes conflate.
Sure.
So they say, oh, well, I'd be able to change my windows if I'm listed on the national register. Nothing on the national register prevents you from paying your house, paying or demolishing it. So it's only as a local landmark that there's any regulatory control. So you have to lay out all these specifics, and then people have lots of questions about tax credits. So you usually have to be prepared to ask a bunch of those questions. So it's just a matter of allaying anybody's fear about the fact that they might lose control of their property. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
So it's all a matter of a public process, basically.
Do you know if there are existing educational brochures?
Oh, yeah.
There are. I was gonna say, because that could be a
Yeah.
piece of it, because we talk often about how we miss people, and so sometimes you just have to be able to get them by mail, by, phone, all the different, contact
Well,
points.
what might be worth looking at is like taking what is available in public brochures, but customizing it to the
Specific.
Frostwoods district.
Yeah.
And making it clear, what national register means, what local
Yeah.
landmarking means here in Manila. Since we have this landmark law versus whatever other. So there could be some work by a consultant in preparing these materials in a form that would be maybe a little easier to understand.
More relatable.
Yeah, and more specific to
The
the
situation.
Frostwood situation. So, yeah, you
Maybe
could,
for consideration.
yeah,
As-
sure.
Because, we struggled, like when we had that, remember when we tried to get people to sign up to consider the registration?
Right,
We had a few people come to the meeting, but we struggled to get participation.
right.
Maybe it's another way we can kind of just keep reminding people that these opportunities are there.
Yeah, I mean, because a big part of the grant we put in was to have examples to show people as much in the district as anywhere, that national register is not going to be the end of your life. Because there are just a lot of myths
Yes.
about what it means. So you just have to allay those.
Anyone else have any other thoughts on how we can spend money?
Well, maybe to build on Rick's point, I'm wondering if the educational materials, if it's not just for the district, but if we were to prepare them for individual nominations. So we,
Have like a little package.
yeah,
Have a comprehensive package.
maybe it's the sort of thing that UW will work with the staff, for a set fee, we could prepare based upon, the couple that already exist. If we could do that, but then also maybe get some testimonies and things like that would live and be available post funding, and so it's something that they could, and it's almost a calling card from Milwaukee for the potential future nominations, but it could be something that, for probably not that much of a cost, we could prepare,
Yeah.
again, with that educational component in mind.
it seems like it'd be a great tool for you if you get those inquiries and you have, materials to follow up with.
I think it would be helpful. And from a Frostwoods point of view, the annual meeting is in April. So being able to even have anything preliminary that people could get. COVID participate would even be at on the.
Yeah.
Landmarked. That's with a proponent of landmarking physically there to say, go do it.
So the property specific one, you think that would be helpful for
We,
residents.
we
in the
meet at
district?
Bungalow in our annual meeting when Dan's health is, and there's no pandemic.
Sure.
We meet at Bungalow. So it'd be just helpful because they'd be able to see that. Be afraid of. So I think that would be great if we could add that in our educational materials.
And maybe as a part of that, even if we had just a postcard, that you could send out, just giving people an alert that your house could be registered, and on occasion you send that out, once a year. Something that's not dated and it's a general piece. As a reminder or a call to action to call you and get more information. I mean, what if, so you brought up several other sites, Native American, signage and education. Could we consider that for many of our parks? Like even San Damiano. I mean, we have quite a lot to work with here, that's 17,000.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of history there in some. I like the idea of some of these markers along the bike route,
Yeah,
the loop, like loop.
as we talk about this walking tour and,
Yeah.
creating more points along that, more
So
destinations.
Sandamano,
Stonebridge.
Woods Beach, Black Ridge.
Any other thoughts?
So I think in addition to kind of what was laid out here, I think there's a couple state markers that were mentioned, possibility of those. The additional educational materials specifically for National Register, for property specific. And then possible district kind of preliminary groundwork type materials as well. Is there anything else that I missed?
We're trying to spend money, is that later?
Take it away from us.
Are there any current signs that could be redone that are in bad shape or anything, I don't know.
The one, it's at the corner of Dean and Winnequa, it's kind of buried. I think it's nested on a boulder.
Oh, it's not the town hall.
Is that what it is?
That's,
Yeah, that used to
Winnequa?
be.
it's not on Dean, but that's.
Right at the corner of Dean and Winnequa, the 5-way stop.
That one was
Oh,
just placed a
Dean
few
and
years
Winnequa.
ago.
It was, okay.
It's at a farmhouse?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was just placed a few years ago.
it was, okay.
Oh, that white one, the White House, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a new place.
it is, okay.
That's something on the motorcycle.
That one never had one before.
No, it's not,
Right.
it's not near Monona Motors.
Yeah,
it's,
I know what you mean.
You know,
yeah.
on Dean.
Yeah.
It's kind of that three-way
Yeah,
street.
it's a 5-way.
It's
Yeah,
the
so
5-way stop.
confusing.
I just remember one time I was going past it and it was very buried, but maybe.
They
it's-
don't keep up their yard very.
Okay, so it's just overgrown.
Uh-huh.
We pay for that.
Right.
If you're getting old like me, it's hard to do it.
Yeah.
landscaping and landmarks.
We'll put $100 into each one of those a year for upkeep. Landscaping.
So I guess is there consensus in terms of priority here or specific? I was hearing a lot about sort of the educational materials programming, the bike, the loop, the bike trail, initial materials for the properties, preliminary for the district. And is that a priority? The National Register plaques potential with approval. Any idea in terms of properties? What's the sort of thinking on priorities here?
It sounds like since you have an April meeting, your annual meeting, doing something in preparation for that could be high on the list. Get that started. No,
I was just
We
wondering,
would introduce some.
introduce something,
That we could
have materials provided that we could give, start a positive conversation with a public meeting.
Yeah.
Where it seems like it's further along. Matt Arrow there saying neighborhoods usually try to fundraise for this.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Speak to that boulder really quick.
Yeah.
Can we have Public Works just clean up around it? It's on city
It is
right
on the
away.
right away, isn't
Yeah.
it? Okay, yeah. Do you know the name of that property out here?
I don't.
I can't remember
Yeah,
that.
White
one.
House on the corner.
It's kind of an old farmhouse.
Yeah,
It's
I know what it
lovely.
is. I don't,
I know what you
I
mean, too,
talked to
I
the
know.
gentleman so many times, but I
Have
don't know
you?
his name.
I really love that property. It's
You
really,
can probably look on the map.
yeah.
I can mention that to the public.
Oh, can you? Oh, that'd be great. And I haven't seen it recently. I just know every time I've gone past that, I always seek it out. but
Looks
it's
a little
not-
bit better this year.
It doesn't,
The landmark plaques themselves, the cities, are really tarnished to the point where you can't.
there's almost no contrast.
Yeah,
I think this one is like that as well. It's very hard to
I
read.
think most of them are that way. I don't know if they need to be cleaned,
Polish.
Maybe clean
Yeah.
it.
so
Probably
they're
clean
more
them all.
readable.
Yeah, yeah. Great, intern job. LTE summer job.
I know there's one on, Rocka by Dean, which you can't hardly, it's Rose House.
Okay,
It's hard to read. I
another
was
one like that.
looking at that because Carden wanted to dig it out, so I was paying more attention than normal.
Yeah.
But I think it could be just clean, polished,
Yeah.
and it's replaced.
Maybe it's even, I don't know if rather than using Public Works, is there a student that's interested in history or, something like that? If that gets too complicated or,
Well, and if nothing else, there is the allocation or the provision here for staff time reimbursement. So if it is something that I don't know offhand how many specifically we have, within public right of way or something like that, but there's a possibility that, if we have the public works crew go out there for 2 hours, then that, could potentially be clawed back as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I know there were some individually eligible houses in Frostwoods. Were they given the opportunity to have their house individually eligible?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they were part of the 16 or 17.
okay.
Yeah. Yes. And the Matt Harrow's property on US Circle, that was not in this, but it is deemed individually eligible. I got that determination and he is still considering.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've made that ask and offered the individual nomination to him. So that's sort of still ongoing at this point.
I can see where there could be a separate little pamphlet about Frostwoods, its history, combined with some of the benefits of being listed on the National Register.
That house at the corner of Dean and Winnequa is the William Schultz Farm.
So Schultz, is that what you said?
Yeah, Schultz.
Yeah. William Schultz.
The road, Schultz,
What's that?
one of those roads. Schultz Road.
There is a Schultz
Right.
place up there.
Yeah, it's
You're
not too
right,
far
there
from
is.
there, yeah.
It runs east-west. Yeah.
It cuts off between the two.
Yeah, real short street. Schultz Place, I believe it is.
Just a one block street. that
It is.
goes between.
That house has an easement in its backyard. Oh, wow, that's public. You have to go through the yard to get. Which house?
Go where?
The William Schultz
And where do you
Why would the
go?
public go there? Yeah. Where does it lead to?
Can you see it on the map?
Another one.
This is-
It's not, I don't know if there's a road out there, or like a
There's another one of
gazebo.
those
or-
up on.
This one's kind of low
I've never
rise.
been.
There's another one in our neighborhood behind.
Yeah, I know it's when you're in Stratford.
There's an easement, a city park with mounds in it that nobody can get to without.
Yeah.
running on private property.
I think if there was anything like that down there, there's a way to go. Maybe.
We spent all your money?
This is an unusual problem to have.
Did we talk about these two properties, the private house and the old tool store? Did we
Yeah,
Do anything with those, it was I zoned out there for a minute.
those ones are, like Pennywood Circle maps.
Yeah, so they, I think that's the Schwens and the
Oh, friends.
private, the Henry Cycle home.
Yeah,
They have at one point or another expressed a possible interest. So that's sort of on the maybe list rather than the.
Remember we talked about those, because I didn't know where the circle was and had to go find it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Kind
So-
of tucked in.
So they definitely have expressed an interest, but it's just a case of potentially getting them over the line, whether they would. But that was why they were listed rather than, and I believe there were 16 or 17 off of memory that were potentially eligible, so there would still be a balance of 10 or 11 that could also be as well. So I'm definitely open to that. I don't know if that was a particular interest, if we wanted to try and, have another educational, event or to try again to sort of drum up interest for those. Or if, these other elements would maybe rank a little higher now and we'd rather pursue those instead.
The last educational event they had that Charlie gave, I think it was really good, but I don't think it spoke enough to the tax credit program, especially for the commercial owners, like Felly's, I think was a good one. He kind of seemed interested, but I don't think he got enough information out of that meeting. So if we maybe had something that spoke more to the tax credit program. Before it goes away.
What?
Chopping block.
Are you serious?
On the state level?
No, federal.
Really? Thanks.
Anything else on priorities there that you feel like should be toward the top?
So at the moment, I'd say I was hearing plaques, the educational, and probably properties. And with educational, I include the different materials, different educational information that can be gathered. Maybe those two, and then state plaques as well, possibly being kind of a top three. Is that kind of the consensus of the group?
a lot of work into this, Doug, thank you. So it's not a quick process to put up the draft documents.
So, I think we can certainly stay in touch and I'll work to share the information of the San Damiano group. But, you know, I think knowing that that's available or a possibility, but I won't rank that particularly highly. You know, that if there is some funding, maybe we can check in again late spring or something like that. But, you know, one thing I had spoken about with the state was really, you know, staying accountable for this and giving them regular check-ins such that, you know, it won't be a surprise in August if the funding is, you know, still unspent or something like that. But maybe if there are other community, if we're not able to spend it, if there are other communities it could be reallocated to, for example. So I'll keep an open dialogue with them. I think here we have a few different things that are definite possibilities, and then it will get spent down pretty quickly. But I did sort of make mention of that too, for them, that, you know, we will keep, you know, a sort of two-way conversation with them there as well.
I was wondering, would it be something like we had, I know it's been talked about getting an assessment of the house at San Damiano. Is that something that we could roll in here if there are leftover funds, or?
In an assessment in what way?
Mary had mentioned a construction, like a.
They've
having a-
already done the structural assessment.
Oh, they
They're
have.
writing the report right now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's right. Okay,
Hope to see it.
yeah.
Excited. to see it. Not excited to see it.
No, well, yeah,
I'm not
but curious. How about that? All right, okay. Anything else on that? All right, excellent. That's exciting. I'm excited about those little tasks. Those are little things that'll make a big difference. So staff updates, Doug, back to you.
So as way of National Register nomination, I mentioned this in the email in November, but the Coles building, that was supposed to be on the sort of review board for National Register consideration. It was pulled. My understanding was that there was staffing issues with the state level at the moment, the state historical. So they really tried to pass down the agenda, and so quite a few of them were pushed back. With that, I'm expecting there may, of course, be a backlog, but there's a possibility that all three can move through pretty simultaneously. You know, they're all completed, and they've all been submitted, so we'll just sort of keep an eye out. As I understand it, there are 4 meetings each year, so we'll just keep an eye out, and I'll certainly keep everybody updated. I think it looks like they'll still remain virtual, but that'll, you know, I'll be trying to get the presentations and sort of the materials from the consultants as well. As we discussed, I think there'll be great resources to have and almost all manageable, you know, to publish on the website and things like that, a little more accessible to read as well. So I'll keep you updated, but wanted to let you know why, you know, it didn't get through.
Okay.
So do you have these in digital copies?
I do not have the presentations yet.
The nomination.
Sorry. Yes, I do have the sort of formal nominations, the digital ones. I would have to double check on the, I believe, the Bowman Warren nomination, but I believe I have the other 2 at least.
Yeah, I think
You distributed. the
Yeah,
other-
they're in the meeting packets, but I can share those with you.
Oh, they've already been set up.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they're really good.
Okay.
Really great. Good reading. I feel like that went out
It's in the summer, I think.
I was thinking August, July.
Yeah.
August.
That was what was at my first meeting, that's right,
Yeah.
because I read that about 4.
And when was your first meeting?
In August.
August.
But I can share those with you, Rick.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're really great. Lots of information.
That's it on the.
Okay, all right. And then any update or discussion on DEI efforts?
Nothing from staff at this time.
I can give a brief update on the DEI committee, the ad hoc committee. I think it's January 23rd is our 6-month marker, which we had kind of been giving a loose timeframe of 6 months to do that work, to basically come forward with recommendations and a report. We're just now starting to get to those recommendations, so we've asked for a couple-month extension on that, which the timeframe was loose, so it doesn't seem to be a problem. We're just now starting to, you know, develop some recommendations, and they will be, there'll be all kinds of different things in there. It's one of these things where it literally is in every single facet of the community, and every community in America. So yeah, it's really been a cool committee to be a part of, and big chunk of work. But Dr. Reese from Nehemiah is masterful at synthesizing all of the conversations and information. So it'll be kind of cool to see what she comes up with. So we'll continue that work here. I think we just talked about it at council and kind of got the blessing to keep extend that time frame. Any questions or? Okay, any permission requests for staff or Doug?
No, at the end of the last, I think it was the last meeting, so this one, I asked about the use of the term historic.
With the walls.
Yes.
Pertaining to the walls, but I guess it's a more general question. The city is doing public works announcements or anything and they're listing the word historic. Just a question what that means.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. I did have a chance, I spoke with the Public Works Director, who I believe sent the letter out specifically for that project. And it was not an intentional term that was used in terms of a landmark necessarily or anything like that. I did, with the chair's assistance, we contacted one of the residents over there, Tim Casper, who lives close by, just to try and get a little bit more maybe anecdotal information or sort of history on that. There's a couple of thoughts there. The first is sort of historically that it was maybe more of a walls, more of a dividing, between parcels or something like that prior to the road construction. The other is that it was maybe more of a boulevard intention, with that being sort of the middle piece between each lane. So there's sort of conflicting theories there. And so he didn't have indication one way or the other, but just as way of a little bit of background and research, that was what was suggested. And again, Bill Thomas was suggested as the
If
resource.
anyone's asked him.
I have not yet reached out to him specifically on that, but so that's what I have now as sort of a little bit of context, but it was not an intentional, or that's certainly not locally landmarked elements. And so I think it was just a sort of honest mistake on that one.
I would say Bill or Jan are your best opportunities for any history. on them. I have never found any history. on
I
them.
haven't either, but Jan would probably know. That was just a long conversation.
I don't know.
They're old, they're not
old.
historic.
But I was like, do we know roughly when they were?
Frost, so bungalow and those houses are younger than that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
They're
they
like
cannot
70s,
be, yeah, they're like 7 years old.
I
They weren't there before the houses, so
this email suggested the 20s or 30s seem to be the best estimate.
right. And I just think the city should be careful with the term historic because we have ordinances that specify what historic means, so that the city should be careful about using that terminology.
Sure.
Unless they want to pursue a local landmark on it and do the history.
Someone is
research.
sure, they can, they're welcome to do research
Right.
and like.
But I don't think I don't think our committee is ready to
No.
go diving into the research, but if they want to and then bring it up as a city landmark, that is a different issue, but until it's landmarked, I hope Public Works would no longer call things historic. Because we have ordinances
Yeah.
that define what that is.
It's an important detail. Okay, upcoming meetings, we've got January 12th and February 9th, and if there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
And
Make the motion to adjourn, and a second? Favor? Doug will pick. All in favor? Aye. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Doug. for all your-